All right, welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the editor and lead writer for thevikingage.com. And as always, I'm joined by my co host, Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as bring me the news and zone coverage. Before we start today's show, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you are watching on YouTube. And also make sure to follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. All right, real quick before we get into today's topics, I just wanted to send some quick thoughts to the Zimmer family following the unexpected passing of Adam Zimmer earlier this week. Zimmer was just 38, and we last saw him as the Vikings co-defensive coordinator of the Vikings in 2020 and 2021. And police or whatever, when they found him, said that there's no suspiciousness about it. There's no sign of foul play. So just right now, it just seems really unexpected. So some thoughts to the Zimmer family out there, because it's not a fun time right now for them. But just want to get that out of the way. So let's get into it. The Vikings traded for TJ Hockenson on Tuesday, a few hours before the trade deadline actually happened. Just like he did in the draft and just like he did right before the regular season, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah completed a trade. And this time it was with the Lions for tight end TJ Hockenson. They acquired Hockenson, a 2023 fourth round draft pick, and a conditional 2024 fourth rounder from the Lions in exchange for their 2023 second round pick and a 2024 third round pick. Now, Hockenson was drafted by the Lions in 2019 with the 8th overall pick. He's been in the league for 4 seasons, and he was voted to the Pro Bowl in 2020. He's currently the 13th best graded tight end in the NFL this season by PFF. He was 22nd in 2021 and 11th in 2020. Chris, just how shocked were you that the Vikings actually made a pretty big trade before the deadline?
I think I'm shocked with any deal that happens at the NFL trade deadline, to be honest with you, because this isn't like the other sports. Like NBA, you get a couple of deals right before the deadline.
Yep.
Baseball's always very popular right before the deadline. Even hockey has some rental deals, but like NFL teams never do this. You hear some names, but they never actually get traded. Hockenson was one of the names I kind of looked at, and I'm like, the Lions aren't going to trade him.
Right.
Like that just seems like it seems stupid, doesn't it? But you know, I figured if Hockenson was going to get traded, they wouldn't do it within the division. So I mean, that was like the one, and I mean, people have that bugaboo, don't they? Like they're just like, oh, you can't make trades within the division, but we're starting to see it now. My personal theory is a lot of NFL GMs like played Madden growing up. Like we're seeing it with coaches too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just like, yeah, 4th and 5 from the 43. Yeah, let's go for it. Screw it. Like, what are we going to do? Punt it? Like you're seeing a lot of coaches kind of adapt that Madden mentality. And I think we're seeing it with general managers now where they don't want to have the magic beans, so to speak. Like a whole bunch of draft picks are nice, but you could use them for established players. Like look at what the Dolphins did with the Trey Lance trade. You see that trade eventually and you go, hey, the Dolphins have a lot of picks for their future. They took those picks and they traded them for established assets. They get Jalen Waddle because they traded up using draft capital they had. They got Tyreek Hill for another first round pick that they had. And then they had Bradley Chubb. I mean, they lost their own first round pick because their owner is like a corrupt moron.
Yeah.
But I mean, they used the picks that they have. It wasn't even their pick, sent it for Bradley Chubb, and now they have 3 elite players. The Vikings are trying to do the same thing. And I like what they did with Hockenson in that he is what Irv Smith was expected to be by Vikings fans. So when they took Irv Smith, the Vikings were in this stretch of just taking tight ends to get a more athletic profile than Kyle Rudolph. And when you look at Irv Smith's athletic profile, it was actually worse than Kyle Rudolph's coming into the NFL. which is saying something. And I think a lot of people pegged Irv Smith as this guy that could catch the ball, get a bunch of yak after the catch and everything else. But that's easy to do when you're playing at Alabama, where you have a top 5 quarterback pick in Tua Tagovailoa. You
Everyone's
have
wide
elite
open.
wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle in the same offense. Like, you're going to be open by 20 yards. And when that happens, you can run 20 yards. So, I mean, this offense, it just never panned out for Irv Smith. Like, a lot of people will say, well, it's not his fault. He got hurt and everything else. Like, he wasn't getting it done. Like, he wasn't.
Right.
He was basically just the 1 yard touchdown catch at the goal line. Everybody's like, oh my God, he's good. Oh my God, look at him in training camp practice. He's so good if he ever stays healthy. And when he was on the field, he never lived up to that expectation. By the way, here's my obligatory, AJ Brown was the very next pick after Irv Smith in that draft. So, I mean, getting a guy like Hockenson, he is more athletic. He is what you want to see. And kind of dating back to what you had talked about on Monday with Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo, I see a lot of George Kittle in TJ Hockenson's game.
Yeah.
He can block, he can catch, he can do a little bit of everything. He might be a little bit of a lighter version than George Kittle, but I love this move for the Vikings, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they use him and whatever. So to answer your question, yes, I was very shocked because this is, I don't want to call it a seismic move because that might be overstating it, but it's a very good move for an offense that needed another offensive weapon.
Yeah, I think there were 10 trades on the deadline day for the NFL,
It was
which is
crazy.
like the most.
Calvin Ridley got traded and he's suspended. Like, that's how nuts it was. It was like, what?
They're like, oh, might as well. He's not doing anything. Let's just trade for him. So
just
yeah, he
placing
was
some
traded
bets at home.
But Chase Edmonds was traded. Nyheim Hines was traded. Like I said on Monday, like, teams are getting better at figuring out which players they can actually trade for. You can trade for a pass rusher. You can trade for a receiver, a tight end, a running back. Like, you can't really trade for a quarterback or a cornerback because it's going to take a little longer for them to get adjusted to their team and scheme. Where someone like Hockenson, you could plug him in on Sunday and he can make an impact. Now, he's still probably not going to make a gigantic impact because he's still got a lot to learn. But, you know, he can go in and be in the red zone and just go up and grab the ball on Sunday and make an impact. I was looking at Hockenson's stats, and I noticed last year that he missed 5 games, but he already had like 60 catches in 12 games. So I figured out what he would have had if he played the entire season last year. And he was on pace last season for 86 catches, 826 yards, and 6 touchdowns. The Vikings haven't had a tight end like that. Like Rudolph, since Rudolph was with like the DiFilippo offense when they were just passing like every down. Even like that's a really good season for any tight end in the NFL. So that's his potential. He's still very young. He's only been in the league for 4 years. He's got the 5th-year option, so the Vikings have him at least under contract until 2024. I would expect them, if things go well for the rest of the season, to extend him this offseason to lower his cap hit next year and just keep him under contract. He's familiar with the division. Like, he's just another reliable target. We know Kirk Cousins likes to throw to tight ends. He's just like, he's a better version, like a much better version of Johnny Munt, I feel like, because like the runnings and earlier in the year, I felt like they ran some of the plays that that Kirk likes to run with tight ends with Johnny Munt, and it was just like, yeah, he got the ball, but nothing really happened after that. So like with Hockenson, he gets the ball in his hands and he can actually maybe make some moves and gain some actual extra yardage. So I like the trade. Do you think the Vikings gave up too much? They gave up their second round pick next year and 2024 third round pick. Do you think that was a fair enough exchange for the Vikings and Lions?
Look at what the Vikings still have in terms of picks. So they still have their first rounder. So, like, I asked myself, what do the Vikings need in order to replenish this roster? I would probably say an edge rusher. That's a pick that you take with a premium pick like that. Some may say they want a contingency plan at quarterback after this season.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pick they use a first rounder for.
Cornerback.
Yeah, corner
Safety
is definitely in some ways. But look at what they need. I mean, it's like linebackers, it's safeties, it's defensive backs. You can get those players with lesser picks. And I mean, you got 2 4th rounders back. So I mean, if I'm the Vikings, I'm looking at this. You could always trade up with those picks. I mean, the one thing we know about Kwesi, like Rick Spielman had the Trader Rick kind of reputation, but he always traded down. He never traded up. He never made aggressive trades like this. He always traded down. Kwesi will trade down. He'll trade up. He'll trade sideways. He will make deals. And I love it. I mean, honestly, like we could be sitting in the 3rd round of the draft and look at the draft a couple of years ago where he whiffed 4 times in the 3rd round. You knew Rick Spielman was just going to sit there and get his guys in the 3rd round instead of actually trading up. Now this year, the Vikings don't have a 2nd round pick, but we'll be sitting there going like, all right, is Kwesi going to pull the trigger? He's got some draft capital in the later rounds. Maybe he uses another pick. Like he knows how to move around. And again, established players. So I don't think he gave up too much. I mean, I think the Lions are crazy for attaching picks to TJ Hockenson. In all honesty, I mean, it's an exciting move. And it's very exciting where Kwesi has established his track record where he is willing to deal. And maybe he is willing to make a move kind of like the New Orleans Saints and Philadelphia Eagles did, where it's like, okay, this year, maybe it's not what we need, but I'm kind of going on another rant here. Maybe it's the coffee, but I don't think the Vikings paid an egregious price or something. They still have ammo to make deals in the future, and they have ammo to get some of this capital back.
Yeah. I kind of with where the Vikings are being positioned right now at drafting in the 1st round, I'd be surprised already if Kwesi didn't just trade back in the 2nd round just to get more picks in a 2nd round pick. That's what he's already shown that he likes to do. He just likes to rack up some picks in the earlier rounds, not necessarily in the 7th round, because you can get more value out of those early ones. So I would expect him already. Yeah, I don't think they gave up too much. And yeah, what are the Lions doing? Why are you giving the Vikings more draft picks? Like it makes it seem like the Lions were actually like making an effort more on their part to move TJ Hockenson rather than the Vikings like trying to get him no matter what. Because the Vikings weren't. I know Irv Smith's out for like 2 months now. But I wouldn't call them desperate for a tight end. But adding Hockenson makes their offense much different and even more dangerous. But no, I don't think so. The Rams have shown it. The Eagles have shown it. Like if you want to win this league, you got to give up picks, and you can use those picks instead of taking a risk in the draft on players that you don't know if they're going to be good in the NFL. You're using these picks on guys that have actually proven themselves in the NFL already. You know they can get the job done. So I like that strategy that Kwesi's going with. Although he doesn't want to go full Rams, but looking like it doing a little bit of that.
I don't think he went full Rams though.
No, he didn't.
The Rams don't have a 1st round draft pick for 7 years, and yet they still offer 2 first rounders for Brian Burns.
Where do they have these 1st round picks?
We'll give you a 1st round pick in like 2035 for Brian Burns.
That's why the Panthers said no.
I'm not gonna be here.
That's why the Panthers said no, because they're like, that's great that you're giving us 2 first, but they're in like 10 years, so it doesn't really mean a whole lot. With the addition of Hockenson, are the Vikings a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
I'm scared to say the magic words. I'm scared
going into week 9.
I remember the 2017 NFC Championship game. I remember the Vikings marching right down the field. And I remember Kyle Rudolph catching that touchdown and saying, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Here we go.
I remember in 2009 during the NFC Championship game. I'm in like purple and yellow plaid pajama bottoms. I'm wearing a Percy Harvin jersey. I'm on my knees at a bar in River Falls, and we're driving for a game-winning field goal. And I'm going, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. didn't happen. I will not say the magic words. I will not. But I think they're a contender in the NFC. I will say that because I can say that with confidence right now. The rest of the conference is maybe a full-blown dumpster fire. I don't know. This year is just weird. And here's the thing, like the Minnesota Twins, I'll use them as an example. It's like no matter what the circumstances, they're always like, oh, the future. We got our prospects. We got Royce Lewis and we got Austin Martin. And we have all these guys that are going to be key contenders. And then they get here and you're in the same spot. Like this deal is saying, all right, you know what? There's a window right now. We could win it. I mean, I don't want a front office that sits there and goes, well, the division is weak, but we were planning on 2023 being our year. If anything, this really extends their window into 2023 because now you have TJ Hockenson, who's under contract for next year. You can extend him. And honestly, like this trade makes me more excited for next year than it does this year. And because also you look at the fact Kevin O'Connell's going to get more of his guys in with this next draft class.
Another year in the offense,
they're already 6-1. So, I mean, shoot.
Another year in the offense next year. Yeah, I do like the fact that it seems like they're going all in now. They are 6-1. I don't think this was their plan. I don't think they probably didn't expect them to be 6-1 right now, and everyone else kind of just the rest of the NFC being like a giant poop factory. But here they are. And I like that they are going because you don't know. Like next year, look at the Rams. They won the Super Bowl. They might not even make the playoffs this year. So you just don't know in the NFL, especially with how unexpected injuries can be. So you gotta when you're 6-1 and the rest of the conference is not doing so hot, you go all in because this. Look at the Eagles in 2017. How many people expected them to go on a run and win the Super Bowl? They did that because, frankly, there weren't really a lot of good teams in the NFC that year. The Vikings were pretty good, but they weren't a powerhouse. So the Eagles took advantage of that, and they won the Super Bowl. And right now, the Vikings have that opportunity. I would say they are a Super Bowl contender, and right now, at 6-1, making this trade, I would say like I'm not going to be sad if they don't make the Super Bowl. I'll be sad if they flop out in the first round of the playoffs. But right now, I would say Super Bowl or bust. I'm not going to give them that label, but I wouldn't like shut down that argument if people want to have that opinion. So
I'll ask you this:
where they are right now. Yeah.
Does this increase their chances of making another move? Like I know they can't trade anymore, but Ndamukong Suh's still out there. Odell Beckham Jr. is still out there. Like, do you think that this kind of?
I think it entices the people that are available right now. Like maybe Odell's like, seems like they're pretty serious about going.
Things are getting pretty serious around there.
Yeah, going on a run. So maybe I will. And the Rams don't look that great right now. Do I want to go to the Packers? Because Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem like that great of a guy. And the Chiefs just traded for a receiver. The Bills, they're pretty stacked up right now. I mean, the Vikings have a lot of receiving weapons, so I could see why Odell might not want to go to the Vikings. But I mean, it's pretty good situation if he wants to go to Minnesota.
And I know the cap room is a bit of a thing right now, but it sounds like the Vikings can just convert some stuff. And I mean, if you, one of the names I think I heard was Brian O'Neill. Like if you go up to him, it's not like Riley Reef demanding he take a $5 million pay cut.
You're giving guys money up front. That's what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you go up to Brian O'Neill and be like, hey man, we're going to give you about $5 million right now. Cash or check. I don't think they have like cash. That'd be pretty funny. Just like a money in the bank briefcase type thing, just like you see in movies. But hey, we're gonna give you a $5 million check, and we're gonna sign Odell Beckham Jr. Brian O'Neill would be like, hell yeah, man, let's go. Like, where's Odell? Screw the money. Like
now in the past, the Vikings I feel like they would have signed Odell, and it would have been more of maybe like a desperation move where they're 2-4, and we need Odell to turn our season around. Kind of reminds me of like 2010 when they tried to make all those moves and it just blew up in their face. But right now, they're in a position to add someone like Odell as a complementary player, just another player to take attention off of Justin Jefferson, take attention off of Dalvin Cook, take attention off TJ Hockenson. Like, I would, nothing against KJ Osborne, but I would much rather have Jefferson, Thielen, and Odell Beckham as the three receivers on the field for the most part for the Vikings. KJ Osborne has been good catching that touchdown catch against the Cardinals this past week, but you can't sit there and say that Odell Beckham isn't a better option than KJ Osborne without agreeing with that or whatever.
And look at what happened to the Rams last year. They had you looked at the Odell Beckham signing, and you're like, what are they doing? They have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods.
Yep.
Robert Woods tears his ACL, and you need another receiver.
Adam Thielen's pretty banged up right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knee issue.
I would be lighting Mr. Beckham up right now if I were Kwesi.
This is it for Irv Smith Jr., right? He's done with the Vikings.
It seems kind of weird, doesn't it? Because at the press conference yesterday, unprompted, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was like, we still believe in Irv Smith. We blah, blah, blah. And you think about it, at this point, he's not going to cost you a lot. Like, that was my biggest fear coming into the season, was that Irv Smith would have one blow-up year, and then you'd have to decide whether you wanted to pay him or not. This injury kind of helps the Vikings because 8 to 10 weeks, maybe other teams are like, he gets hurt a lot. Maybe if you're the Vikings, you go out to him after the season, you go, hey, man, you've been hurt.
1 year deal.
You've had, how about a 1 year prove-it deal? We'll give you $2.5 million or whatever it is. We'll just see if you play. Because, Irv Smith and TJ Hockenson in the same set, that'd be kind of interesting.
I don't know. I think I'm over it. I think I'm over the experiment. I don't think he's a good fit for the offense anyways.
And I'm not a big Irv Smith fan either. But, I'm just kind of devil's advocate here.
It's been a lot of hype throughout his whole career. Injuries suck, but they're part of football, and they seem to happen to him more frequently for whatever reason. Even when he's been on the field, he's had some moments, but he's not really. You think about second-round picks like Eric Kendricks, Dalvin Cook, Brian O'Neill,
A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Like, those guys lived up to their expectations. Irv Smith has not. And he's a good dude or whatever, but just it isn't a fit. But also, I could see a team next year being like, "Oh, he's fine. We'll get him in our health system and figure him out." Because I just think back to when the 49ers signed Jerick McKinnon a couple years ago, and they gave him all that money, and everyone's like, "Okay." And the Vikings are probably like, "I guess he's not coming back here." So I could see something like that happening with Irv, but. Yeah, I could see a 1 year deal, but I just don't think based on the way that they've tight ends they brought in and drafted, they can always draft another one in the 6th or 7th round next year. Just the tight ends that they've brought in and the ones they're using they're not really the same mold as Irv Smith, and I just don't think that there's really a fit for him in Minnesota anymore. So it was a good run. Thanks for 4 years, but I think the time has come for Irv Smith. Before we get off this topic, any other trades from the NFL that you liked or kind of surprised you?
The Bears trading for Chase Claypool was weird.
That's what I had to.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird on multiple fronts. First, the Bears probably just gave up a top 40 pick for Chase Claypool, who is good. I wouldn't pay him. No. Not what he's probably going to be asking for. I think every Viking fan has the image of him celebrating a first down while his team's down by 8 and the clock's running. That's kind of weird. I have the image of him taking a dip before a post-game interview stuck in my head.
Is he a big TikToker too? Not that that's a bad thing, but
I don't think so. I think that was Juju, but
okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was too.
It's also weird because the Packers reportedly offered a second round pick as well.
Yep.
And they just
Steelers.
Again,
did you see why though? The Steelers picked the Bears because they thought the pick
would be higher.
And then people were like, I don't know about that.
The Packers and the Twins front offices and if you're not a baseball fan, I apologize. This is going to mean nothing to you, but they're very similar in how they do business. They don't spend a lot on free agents. They don't shore up their needs. They'll spend money to be like, oh yeah, we care. We signed Byron Buxton to this big deal, but we're not going to, oh, we signed Carlos Correa. Look at this. We didn't spend any money on the bullpen.
Like, I'm not going to trade for Juan Soto.
They go all in, but they just dip their toes in the water. Yeah. That's what the Packers are doing. Like I saw a tweet yesterday that said, you pay Aaron Rodgers a whole bunch of money, but you don't get him receivers. You pay Jair Alexander a whole bunch of money, but you don't shadow the team's number one receiver with him. Like they just make a whole bunch of moves that be like, see, we care. We actually don't. Like you're all idiots. Just give us your stock money and we'll give you a piece of paper saying you're an owner. Like that's
Aaron Rodgers also
next
thinks
move,
worthless.
to be honest. Just hey, you're a part owner of the Twins. Yay,
I also had the Claypool one. I think Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins is kind of interesting. Maybe shake things up in the AFC there. Nyheim Hines to the Bills is pretty interesting, but I feel like they already have like the same kind of running back there twice.
I think he's vastly overrated,
to
be honest. Like, I don't know. Like, and Frank Reich's
he's a punt returner,
he's
though,
weird,
too, right?
man.
Like.
Yeah, Hines can return punts. Yeah.
So maybe that's why they wanted him. There was a lot of trades, and I enjoyed it. I hope this is how the rest of the future goes for the NFL trade deadline because, the NBA, it's always exciting. Anything else exciting? Baseball's exciting. Trade deadline, So NFL's taking everything else over. They're taking Christmas over, Thanksgiving. They're going to take Black Friday over, taking the off season over. Why just do the trade deadline too? Why not?
Spring football, it's coming.
All right. So Za'Darius Smith on Wednesday, he was named the NFC Defensive Player of the Week for his performance against the Cardinals, and today, on Thursday, he was named the NFC Defensive Player of the Month for October. And I believe this is the first time a Viking player has won this award since 2017. I think Everson Griffin was that guy who won this award. During the month of October, Smith had 6.5 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss, and 11 pressures. And I believe a lot of this was done on a kind of a banged up knee. He's been dealing with a bit of a knee issue throughout this last few weeks. Kind of hurt a little bit on Sunday, but he was able to play most of the rest of the game. But he's been on a tear. He's been a great addition to the Vikings this year. But just overall, where would you rank him among like the best signings in Vikings free agent history? There aren't really a lot of great signings in free agent history, but there's some. Like, I'll give you a couple names if you need some help. Do you need some help?
So I was just brainstorming. Let me list the ones I have in mind right now.
Okay.
As far as good. Brett Favre, 2009.
Yep.
That was a free agent signing.
Yep.
Antoine Winfield.
Yep.
I think he's up there. Ryan Longwell.
Yeah.
I think that was a very good signing.
Yeah.
Steve Hutchinson.
Yep. So like the whole 2019, pretty much.
Tilly did a good job as far as identifying talent.
Yeah.
Even Vashante Shenko, you could put in that list because he was pretty good.
Chester Taylor.
Man, it is the whole 2009 team, isn't it? Because, the 2017 team, Linval Joseph.
Yep.
He was a big free agent signing.
Terrence Newman.
Terrence
Newman? Tom Johnson?
Case Keenum.
Yeah.
you can put him up there. That season doesn't happen if Case Keenum doesn't play out of his mind.
You're not Michael Floyd? That wasn't a big one for you?
Not a big Michael Floyd. He's one of us, but
yeah.
Big kombucha guy too.
Had to mention it.
Yeah.
Where would you rank him? Behind Favre or above Favre? Or
Favre was so freaking seismic in 2009 that we're forgetting the biggest one of all, Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right.
I don't know if they win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Maybe he makes that list.
Yeah.
I mean, the initial contract, he didn't win a Super Bowl, and that's what he was brought in to do.
I totally forgot that he was a free agent. I don't even know what, I don't know. That's totally slipped my
He
mind.
seemed like a trade.
It did.
Because he was franchise tagged for so long.
Yeah. That
but
totally slipped my mind.
I don't know where I would rank him. I think he's the most, as far as defensive moves go, I think he's the most impactful since Jared Allen. When they give up all that capital for him.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, he's got such a small cap hit. It was like small potatoes to bring him on.
Mm-hmm.
Next 2 years, I'm interested to see what the Vikings do if they do kind of tear up his contract and go, hey, yeah, we'll give you a 2-year extension. We'll, this will replace what we had and you'll get your money. It's just, but I mean, the impact he's had on this defense, I was a little bit skeptical because of his health, and it's still a concern moving forward. I mean, I think it was, who was it? Harrison Phillips did the Triple H knee drop onto his knee or whatever, where he just jumps on the air and lands on him with his knee. That was a little bit concerning, but I mean, if he stays healthy, I mean, yeah,
he's been a great addition. I would put right now, just based on overall production with the Vikings, I would put Antoine Winfield ahead of him. But Za'Darius Smith can easily surpass Antoine Winfield in terms of impact as a free agent. More than Linval Joseph. I know Joseph was a good player for the Vikings, 2-time Pro Bowler, I think. Pat Williams, we didn't mention him. He was also a free agent for the Vikings. Randall Cunningham, and then you named the rest: Hutchinson, Chester Taylor, Brett Favre, Case Keenum, Ryan Longwell. Is Za'Darius Smith the second best pass rusher the Vikings have had, in the last 2 decades behind Jared Allen? Or, do you still give it to maybe Everson Griffin or Danielle Hunter?
Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter are up there.
Yeah.
Even I don't think Brian Robinson is ahead of him, but I mean, Brian Robinson's pretty good.
He did a lot of dirty work. He helped other guys make plays.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, he's probably up there a little bit for me. I think, if we're doing it Mount Rushmore style, it's probably Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, and Za'Darius Smith. Not in some order, but
and Jared Allen.
Yeah, and Jared Allen. Yeah, since the Jared Allen trade, those are probably the
riding in on his horse.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I looked up what Za'Darius Smith currently has. I think I'm gonna say 8.5 sacks right now through 7 games. He's on pace for 21 sacks this season. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Also, that would be great just because the Packers, I believe, are still paying 10 or 11 million on their cap for him to do that. So that's makes it much more enjoyable. But yeah, Za'Darius Smith, he's been a great addition. I would say on and off the field. I feel like he's just a big personality, and he makes guys just makes football reminds people that football is like a game. It's a kid's game. We can get serious. We're here to win, but we're here to have fun too. So I like that element that he's brought to the Vikings because they haven't really had that in a while.
Yeah,
so it was a bit refreshing to get him on there. All right, this Sunday the Vikings head to the nation's capital. Actually, it's in Maryland. FedEx Field's in Maryland. It's not in DC. To take on the Washington Commanders, who are apparently maybe up for sale now, finally. The Vikings are currently favored by 3.5 points, according to FanDuel. Over-under is currently at 43.5 points, so they're expecting a pretty low-scoring game. They're going against the Commanders, who have won their last 3 games in a row, 2 of them with Taylor Heineke, former Vikings quarterback, starting under center. Taylor Heineke is 7-3 in his last 10 starts for Washington. The Vikings will win on Sunday over the Commanders if they do what?
I don't want to put this on Kirk Cousins, but I'm interested to see how he reacts in this game.
Kevin O'Connell, too. He's returning. Everyone forgets about him. He was there for 3 years, too.
I mean, all eyes are going to be on Kirk Cousins
Oh, yeah.
because of this game. And I mean, he was asked about, he was like grilled by Chris Thomason in the press conference. It was just like question after he's finally like, Chris, I'm not going to talk about
Thomason?
Washington. Like, yeah,
That's not
really?
like him. That's
No.
not like him. That's not like him.
But I mean, Kirk kind of talked a little somberly about it. I don't know. Like, this is a game I looked on the calendar as soon as the schedule was released, and I'm just like, Kirk meltdown game. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could just see his eyes being all wide and like him wanting to stick it to the Commanders or whatever. He has to play within himself. Like, he can't try and be like Kirktober Kirk. I mean, Kirktober's over. It's November. It's Kirkvember. Which actually he has a higher passer rating in November than October, which is kind of funny, but he just hasn't had the team success. So I don't think this is going to be a game where Kirk Cousins just goes berserk and throws for 400 yards. I think this is going to have to be a game where the Vikings have to control the line of scrimmage. The Commanders' defensive line is very good. The Vikings showed signs of life in the run game last week against Arizona, who is also a very good run defense. Can you continue to do that? Can you spring Dalvin Cook for some 5 or 6 yard gains? I'm not looking for a 70-yard touchdown run. I'm looking for consistency. And if you can do that, keep the ball away from the Commanders' offense, including Taylor Heineke and Terry McLaurin, who scares the hell out of me against the secondary. Like, I think that's going to be the key to the game. I think you have to have Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, and those guys get going. And then, you'll play keep away, you'll get out to a big lead. And I think that'll keep that defense fresh.
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell's going to know that Kirk Cousins is probably going to have a lot of feelings going in this game. And a lot of people are going to be asking him about it. And he's going to go in the stadium and people are going to boo him. Maybe not. Maybe they won't. Who knows with that fan base right now? They're probably just like
apathetic.
We're finally for free. But
it's such a weird franchise.
Yeah,
like I don't even know what to think.
No, but I think at least at the start, I wouldn't be surprised if they leaned a little more heavily on Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison just to get some plays going. Maybe some easier plays, some quick plays to like Justin Jefferson, get Kirk in a rhythm. Not have him just standing there in the pocket with his deer in the headlights or whatever, just looking around trying to make the best play possible in his return to Washington. So I think in the past, I would worry about Kirk kind of crumbling in a game like this, but with Kevin O'Connell, kind of this cool, even-keeled guy, like let's just chill out. Let's not freak out about everything. Let's just take it, one play at a time. I feel much more confident about the Vikings going in this game. Them being favored on the road, I think, is always good. But yeah, at the same time, they've got to just keep doing what they're doing. They ran the ball really well last week against a good Cardinals run defense. Keep getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. I don't think the Commanders, they just traded their number one corner. Not that he was really playing, William Jackson, but they don't really have like a shutdown corner, and we've seen Jefferson this year already go off against teams that don't have one like that. So I could see that happening. Maybe see some TJ Hockenson in there. I think the pass rush has got to get to Taylor Heineke. Just fluster him or whatever. He's a gunslinger or whatever, or he just likes to take chances, take advantage of those chances, and force him to turn the ball over, because I think that's something that he's very capable of doing. So yeah, basically the same thing they've been doing all year. Don't turn the ball over on offense. Be efficient in the red zone, and put pressure on the opposing quarterback. It seems really simple, but sometimes it's not. Now, the Vikings will lose on Sunday to the Commanders. If what?
I kind of mentioned it. I mean, the defensive line for Washington, you got Jonathan Allen, you got Chase Young hurt. Like, I don't think he is.
They just put him off of injury reserve and put like the designation tag. So he's got like 3 or 4 weeks to try.
So he probably won't play on Sunday.
He's not playing. No.
That would have been kind of an interesting matchup to watch with Christian Darrisaw, but I mean, if the Commanders' defensive line kind of ruins things, I mean, Ed Ingram did not have a good game on Sunday. I think Luke Braun kind of.
When has he?
Well, he's good in the running game. I think he's very much like Bradbury, where he just can't, pass protect. But
he's a rookie though too.
There's definitely been some growing pains. I'm just interested to see how this defensive line stacks up against the Vikings offensive line. If they can move them around, if they don't get whooped, for lack of a better term, I think they'll be fine. But it's going to be really interesting to see how that matchup turns out in the trenches.
Yeah. I think I saw PFF has the Vikings as the 10th ranked offensive line right now. 10th. The Vikings have a top 10 offensive line. When was the last time that happened? I don't even know.
Probably before PFF.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah, they cannot let Kirk Cousins don't call those slow developing plays where he's got to go through all of his reads and find someone, just get the ball out of his hands quick. Because we saw, was it a strip sack last week of Cousins? Yeah. So you do that with the Commanders. This is a team that's they need those easy scoring chances. So don't give them that. Don't give them easy chances. Don't give them, short field position. They will take advantage of it, and then you will pay. Also, don't give them hope at the end. Don't miss an extra point to keep the game within one score, because Taylor Heineke has shown they will come back and they will beat you. You get that crowd going against Kirk Cousins. Heineke's pretty easy to root for. Don't give them hope. If you're gonna beat them, make it at least 2 possessions, because that's not something you want to happen on Sunday. Final score prediction from you.
Oh, I haven't even thought about this.
Over under again is 43.5.
Okay, the Vikings are incapable of winning a game by more than one score.
Oh, come on. They can do it once.
Rule of thumb. They are physically incapable of winning a game by one score. So I will say 24-17 Vikings.
Damn it. Okay.
Is that what you had?
No.
Okay.
But I'm just come on, can't they win by more than one score? Just once. Come on.
They can't. Except for week 1 against the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers was probably on drugs or something. But
it's a plant, okay? It's not drugs. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 20-10. I'm just gonna go with that.
Okay.
That's 2 possessions. It's low scoring. Although the Vikings, they've scored what? 20. They've scored at least 27, 28 points in most of their games since the Eagles game. So their offense is pretty good. So all right, I'll do 30-17. I'll do that instead. 30-17.
I don't know. I think this game's gonna be gross to watch, but
could be. I haven't looked at the weather. There's been some oddly warm days on the East Coast. I know that. I heard from my relatives, so maybe that's the same in Maryland. So you never know. It's an early game. It's noon. We know how Kirk Cousins like those. Also, is
Chris
the Bills
Myers
game.
there?
He is Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth.
Oh boy.
Yeah, same team. They're going to be there. Mark Schlereth's going to be loving those offensive linemen, defensive linemen again. So yeah, that's that for today. We will be back on Monday to recap the Vikings and Commanders, hopefully recapping a win. But make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel, like this video if you have already. We greatly appreciate that. The audio form of this podcast is available. It will be available probably tomorrow morning on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. Just go check that out. But until next time, Chris and I will talk to you later.